Greetings, my name is Lindsay Curtin, and in this video you will learn how to create and implement NWCG certificates in the Wildland Fire Learning Portal. Though a bit cumbersome to create, you'll find this method to be extremely useful for all of your NWCG courses. This video will walk you through the 4 parts of certificate creation, from downloading and setting up your NWCG template, to creating a transparent signature for the course's lead instructor, to building the certificate in the learning portal, and finally, establishing settings for your certificate and a student's ability to download it upon successful completion of your course. Let's get started. To begin, you will need to download a certificate template from NWCG's website. You can find the link in the video or simply search for NWCG certificate template in your browser. Once you've found the document, download a copy of it to your computer. Do not simply edit within the browser, otherwise you will lose your work. Now, navigate to the file using your File Explorer and click to open it. We are going to fill out our course's basic information, then save the template as a JPEG file that will eventually be loaded into the Wildland Fire Learning Portal. The portal will automatically fill in the student name for you, so leave this blank. We'll start with the course's name and number. Then put in your instructor's name, their relevant qualification, their home unit and their agency, and if you know it, the course's start and end dates. Followed by the host unit in general. So in this case, we'll just keep it as Cherokee National Forest. And then the location. If it's going to be virtual, please put in Virtual Wildland Fire Learning Portal, WFLP. Finally, this is a very important step. We're going to leave this lead instructor signature blank, and that's because we're going to bypass the digital signature requirements of this template. So from here, we're going to do File, Export to an image, and that will be a JPEG. And then go ahead and save it as something you can remember. So for our class here, S131, cert background. And then hit save, and you're done with part 1. In part 2, you will learn how to create a transparent signature for your NWCG certificate. To begin, start by asking your lead instructor to simply sign a white piece of paper, snap a photo of it, and then send you that photo via email. Once you have the photo, save it to your course folder and open up Paint 3D on your computer. Now we'll get started by clicking Menu and inserting our picture from our course folder. Now that we have our picture, let's go ahead and crop it. All right, that looks pretty good. So once we're finished, just hit the Done button. And now we're going to use the Magic Select tool to highlight the signature and remove it from the background. This part of the process can be a little bit frustrating, but don't worry. Once you start figuring out how to use the buttons, it's not too bad. And it doesn't have to look perfect to still look good on your certificate. So once it's highlighted your signature, just hit the Next button. And you'll see that the computer program tried to highlight some things for us, but it obviously didn't pick up the entire signature. So what we're going to do here is toggle between add and remove and see if we can't get this entire signature to become highlighted in the end. Oops, and you can see that because it doesn't have that black background, that's because it's added. So let's start by removing some of this stuff. There we go. Okay, so we see that it's removing some things. We'll start there and then try and add our signature back. And now I've removed everything. Okay, so we'll go back to the add tool, and we're gonna, first of all, I will zoom in to make this a little bit easier for all of us. Now I'm gonna start tracing to add the text back in there. And you can see as my tracing goes along here, it will start picking up hopefully just what we want to and not too much more. Of course, it went ahead and filled in all the background, so now we're going to go and remove it. Like I said, it's a little bit of an art and a science here, but we'll get it in the end. There we go. Okay, now we still have a bunch of blank in here. I'm not going to get too crazy, but you can fill in some of this to crop out that background. We'll get a couple more spots and then we'll go ahead and call it good. All right, so since we're looking pretty good with this, I'm gonna call it quits. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It'll look fine on the certificate. So whenever you are satisfied with it, just hit the done button. All right, now if I click on this, I can see that I have clipped out my entire signature, and I did forget the dot on the I, but just for the sake of time, we're going to leave it for there. So now that we know that our signature has been removed from the background, we're going to simply right click and copy, and then we're going to start a new piece of canvas. So do menu, new. Don't worry about saving the changes to your work. And now we're just going to simply right click and paste our new transparent signature onto the blank canvas. And you'll see a little bit of the background that was left, but like I said, it's not a big deal. So we're going to do a little bit more cropping on our new signature here. Hit done. And then if it moves out of the canvas box, just click to highlight it and then drag it back in there. All right, here's our signature. We're ready to save it in transparent mode. So we'll do menu, save as, an image. Make sure that the type is a PNG, and then also make sure to check this transparency box. Once you see that checkerboard background, you'll know that your signature is now transparent and we're ready to save. In part 3, you will learn how to actually build your certificate in the Learning Portal. Open up your course and click to turn on editing. Now scroll down to the section where you want your certificate to live and make sure that the toggle is open if it isn't already so. From here, you're going to click to add an activity or resource, and we're going to choose Custom Certificate. Now we'll name our certificate, so we'll call it S131 Course Certificate, and we're going to save and return to the course. And we'll see now that our certificate has a place to live on our course. So in order to edit it, we're going to click it again. And you'll see there's nothing to display at this point. So we're going to come over to the administration pane, and we're going to edit our certificate. It's important to note when you're first starting that you need to switch the width and the height so we have the proper landscape view. So this 210 will become 297 and the 297 will become 210. Go ahead and save the changes. Now that we'll have the proper layout, we can start adding the elements. So first and foremost, that's going to be the background image we created in part 1, and then we'll superimpose the transparent signature we created in part 2. So to do that, we're going to come here and we're going to add an element, and that will be our background image to start. You'll notice that right now there's no images available, so we will upload our image using either the drag and drop method or you can search for the tool here. I'm going to use drag and drop. Once the image has loaded, before you do anything, you need to save the changes. So all that's done so far is just added our background as something we could choose. So you'll see now we have an element and we have background image. So we're going to click this gearbox. And now we can actually select the image. So right now it still says we have no image in the background. And we're going to click the drop down and find our S131 cert background. Now save the changes again. This step is an easy one to forget, but you'll notice that nothing will happen if you don't choose it. So don't forget, you have to go into this twice. Okay, so now we have our background image. We're going to add another element. So we'll click this drop down box. And now we want to add an image. This image is going to be our transparent signature. We're going to go through the same process again where we are dragging our image into the box and saving it, coming back in, and then actually selecting it. So we have our transparent signature. I'm going to drop it down. All right, we'll save the changes again. And just like before, we actually need to go and select that image. So this is example signature transparent. You can also use this opportunity to mess with the width and the height of the signature. So that's how big that image is going to be. I usually start out with guessing maybe something like 30 by 50, and it might be huge, it might be too small, but we will find out once we start rearranging the elements. So let's save our changes here. And the last thing we're going to want to add is our student's name. So this is where the portal is going to do the work for you. All we have to do is select student name. We'll add the element. And you can set either the width or the size here. So size, let's try something like 30. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so if we want to see now what we have going on with our certificate, we're going to click this button down here called Reposition Elements. And it might take a moment for everything to load. So you'll see it's populating my name because I'm the student. And we have the crazy scribble of our signatures. We definitely need to arrange that. But what we're going to do here is simply click on the elements and we can drag them around. So I'm going to grab our signature that we know is going to need some fixing, but it's going to live here somewhere. Then we're also going to grab the student name and try and center it on our picture. Okay, so now that it looks all right, we're going to save and close, and we can go back in and make some tweaks to the sizing here. So we know that signature needed some work. The width, maybe let's try that at 50 instead, and then we'll make the height 30. Okay, now let's take a look. We'll go back in to reposition elements, see if that helped us out any. All right, it looks a little better, and it looks a little bit like it got smushed together. So I'm going to change that width again and make it a little longer. So save and close. Hopefully this is the last time. Practice makes perfect. Once you figure out your standard size, that's probably what you're going to be choosing to go with in the future. So one more time, click the gearbox by Edit. And let's change the width to something like, I don't know, 70. Hopefully that'll look good. The height seemed fine, so we'll keep it at that and see what happens. All right, one last time, reposition the elements. And now this is looking pretty good. So we can see that we have our signature here. It looks like they've actually signed the document. Looks pretty good to me. We have our student's name. We've already filled out all the background information, and we have our signature. So we will save and close. And now we're going to save the changes to our new certificate. Now that we're happy with the way our certificate looks, we're ready to hit part 4. So we're nearing the end of the finish line. From here, we're going to go from the edit certificate to edit settings. In this area, we've seen where we've already named the certificate. You can use the description to fill in any additional information that your students might need. But most often, what we're going to be using is this button called Restrict Access. So from here, you can add a myriad of restrictions that best apply to how you want the students to be able to download their documents. So in some classes, that just might be you don't want them to get it until the last day of class. That's fine. So if our class ends on the 15th, I can set that. You can set a time, and you're good to go. We can also add something else to that. So maybe we don't want them to have the certificate at least until July 15th, but they also have to pass their final examination. So we'll add a grade restriction. And the grade for our final examination, we'll click that, must be greater than, say, a 70%. So in this case, the learner must match all of the following. It has to be the date, and the grade has to be a 70%. You can mix and match this if you want. It could be any or both. So we will hit save and return to course, and now we have our restrictions that will enable us to have this link out there, but students can't click on it. And a good way to check to make sure this is the case is we'll notice now that we're back in our course, we see the link here, we can click on it, but it is gray. It's not a blue hyperlink. So that's a good way to tell that yes, we have restrictions and you won't be able to access it. If you also really want to triple check this, we can switch our role to the learner so we can see what our student sees. And this is great to use while you're editing in various different ways. So great tool there. Okay, so now I'm a student, I'm looking down, and oh, I can't click to get my certificate. So once it's after July 15th and I've gotten my 75 or plus on my final, I'm good to go. And to go back to my normal role, we'll just simply click this button. And you're good to go. So here we are. We have our certificate. If you ever want to edit again, just click on the link. And you can view it just like a student would. So we can come in here, click View Certificate. It'll download to our computer, and you can see the final product. So just keep in mind that when the student downloads the certificate, it will have their name on it and not yours. Look at that. We have our final product here. Imagine the student's name. This will be a great reference for them. They can download it, they can print it, they can put it in their training file, and you will also have a copy of it as well. So I'll go back to the course. Like I said, you can either edit the certificate further from there if you figure you need any more tweaks, or you can edit the settings again to set those restrictions. All right, so we have created a course certificate from scratch. You can use this for any of your NWCG classes, and I really hope you found this video helpful to you as you are creating your courses in the future. Happy learning!